It just takes time. You gotta go through it and you gotta make the frames, and you can duplicate some of them for sure. But uh, yeah, 2D animation definitely takes time. And I am going to go ahead and increase the opacity back to normal. I have deleted my MOV file or my original movie file. I don't need that anymore because basically I'm done. You can keep that there if you want to. And I think what I did was I saved this in a different file already. I called it hand one full. I saved it in a different file, and then I deleted that movie file. So I still have the file where the movie file exists, but I deleted it because I'm going to be taking this into After Effects now, and it's just I want to bring as few things into After Effects as possible, just so we aren't making it more messy, making more things in the import window. The cleaner we can keep the project panel, the better. So I know I don't need my movie file in After Effects. I'm not going to use it, so I went ahead and deleted it. All right, so I've opened up After Effects and I made a new project. I'm going to go ahead and import my file. Over here, this is the project panel. We can go to File, Import, or Command I. Really recommend you all trying to learn the hotkeys. Really makes for a much more efficient workflow and much more just seamless, intuitive. Once you get the hotkeys down, it'll really help you out. I want to import this not as footage, but as composition retained layer sizes. This is going to bring it in so I can access every single layer that is in my Photoshop file. Let's select the file. That's the one we want. Hand one full. Composition retained layer sizes. Same thing. And here you can see we have a folder, and this contains all of our contents. And then we have our composition right here. And this is, let's double click on it. This is more or less our Photoshop document. And it's 1920 by 1080. If we hit Command K, that's going to bring up the composition settings. We can see it's 1920 by 1080. Frame rate is 12 frames per second. You can also get to that by going to the composition tab right here. Click on the three bars and go to composition settings. But Command K is the hotkey. So we can see down here shadow hand and base hand. These are our two folders. These were our two video groups that we had in Photoshop. And these are two compositions inside of After Effects. So this is an example of nesting. We have our main composition, and then we have two more compositions inside of that. That's called nesting. We can also see those compositions right here are up inside of our folders. We have shadow hand and base hand. And so it's just like, it's like clicking through a folder. We can double click on this and we open up that. And now all we have the shadow, the line work that I created. Same thing here. Nope, sorry. Back in our main comp, hand one full. If I click on base hand, we have our base layer. And this is because we want to have it in two separate compositions because we want to be able to access each one and we want to be able to manipulate them. What I can do is I can take my shadow hand if I want to, and I can parent it to my base hand. And so now whenever I move my base hand, I hit P on the keyboard to open up position. You can also twirl down, it will open up transform, position. When I move the position now, the shadow is moving with it. If I didn't do that, let's go back. Ooh, whoa. Redo import. If I didn't do that, and I don't have a parent link right now, and I tried to move my base hand, P for position, we can see that layer is not moving with it. So for the sake of things, I mean, this shadow layer is really always going to be in that spot. So for the sake of things, let's parent it. We take this, it's called the pick whip, and we move it down to the base layer. So that's let's say we want to make it a little bit smaller. Let's do that. And also let's rotate it. I don't want the hand to be at an angle. I want it to be straight up and down. And here we go. Oftentimes we'll see in motion graphics videos, there's this flickering background, sort of a little bit of texture that's added to objects or the background in the video. It looks maybe something like this, with different colors, of course, but there's this flickering texture that's happening. So I want to show you how to do that. Let's come over here to our file. Let's make a folder. I'm calling it texture. And I'm going to import my carpet. This is a picture I took of carpet in my apartment. You can use any texture, wood grain, the sidewalk, a t-shirt, a leaf, many things. But of course, the more surface area that you have, the better, at least for this way. You could also take lots of different shots, and that will work too. But I'm going to show you how to do it with one large picture. I'm going to make a new composition. This button right here, or we can do Command N. I'm going to call this carpet texture. I want to make sure that I have it at 12 frames a second and 1920 by 1080. 7 seconds is good. As long as it's a little bit longer than our hand composition, which is 5 seconds, that should be fine. I'm in that composition now, and I'm going to bring down my carpet layer. Now the more space we have to work with, the better, so we could scale it up. Well, we don't want to have it tiny, because really we only have this surface area to work with, and we could only move it like here, 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 and we want to be able to move it a little bit side to side as well. So I'm just going to keep it at 100, and in order to make the first keyframe, I can have scale, position. I'm going to switch to position, and I hit P, remember, to open up position. You can also twirl down. I'm going to hit the stopwatch right here. So this is my first position. And I'm going to zoom in until I can see the frames. I want to do every 3 frames. So that means every 3 frames this texture will flicker. So 3, I'm going to move it here. 6. All right, so 5 seconds. And I'm going to take this slider here. I can drag it to there. Or what I can also do is just hit N. That will bring it there. I'm going to take it to my last keyframe. And now I just want to work within this area. I want to get rid of this extra part. I want this composition to be 5 seconds. I'm going to right click, and I can say trim comp to work area. And now this is only 5 seconds long. So we still have a problem, unfortunately. We have this slide. We have it sliding in between keyframes, and we don't want that. We want it to hold this keyframe and then hit that keyframe, hold that, and then hit that keyframe, and so forth. So we want to add a hold in here, and right now it looks way too jumpy. What we can do to solve this problem, we're going to select all of the keyframes, right click, go to toggle hold keyframe, and now look how it's different. That's what I want. All you had to do is, again, right click, toggle hold keyframe. So that holds the keyframe for 3 frames, and then it moves to the next. I'm going to add some effects to this. In order to get the colors that we want to work in, we have to first switch our content into black and white, and then we're going to assign colors to black and white. So let's desaturate. And I also want to put in brightness, contrast. Now, if you're struggling finding the effects, you might be over here somewhere with libraries. You can just hit this button, effects and presets, and or you can go up to effects up here, and you need to have the layer selected, and then effects, and you will be able to select whatever you want. So those would of course be in color correction. One more way you can get to the effects is right click, effects, and there's a whole bunch here, but if you know specifically what you want, it's nice to come over here and search for it. Okay, here in my carpet texture composition, I actually came in and I made some changes. I changed it to a 2-frame hold instead of a 3-frame hold, and I also did rotation. So if we hit, remember R's rotation, P's position, but if we hit U, it's going to bring up anything that we have added keyframes to. So that's great. We want to make sure that this composition is at least the same length as what we're going to use as the alpha matte. So this is 5 frames 11 seconds, and I've made sure that this one is 5 frames 11 seconds as well. We can check that by going to composition settings. Remember, you can also do Command K. So 5 seconds, sorry, 5 seconds, 11 frames. I think I said that backwards. So 5 seconds, 11 frames. And this looks a little better than what we had before. I'm going to move back to my hand 1 full composition, and I'm going to use something called an alpha matte. I learned these at the beginning of when I learned After Effects, and I use them all the time, and I think it's something that you all should be using regularly as well. So we're going to drag our carpet texture down to the bottom of our stack. I'm going to change the color of this so that I know it's a texture and not a asset. Let's just change it to red. And down here in the bottom left corner, there's these 3 buttons. We want to make sure that the second button, it's a circle and a square, turn that on. It gives us this column for track mattes. So we will take carpet texture, change the track matte for this to alpha matte base hand. And what that means is it's using the alpha layer of the base hand, which is more or less anywhere that there's solid shape. It's taking that shape, and it's going to apply our carpet texture to the base hand. We can, it's a little bit hard to see, but we're going to add a tint to our carpet texture. This will make it easier. We will change the black. I don't know, maybe like a blue color and change the white. Maybe I like yellow and blue as a combination a lot. It's interesting. That's all right. And we can do the exact same thing with the shadow hand. We will take carpet texture, put it below. I'm going to drag and add tint to that. I'm also going to change this to red. And let's do a different combination this time. Let's do a darker color because this is sort of signifying the separation, and maybe a pink. And same thing, change none underneath, change the track matte on carpet texture, change that to alpha matte. So if we wanted to move this around, we would have a few issues again. We have the shadow hand that is moving with it, like the alpha for the carpet for shadow is moving, but the carpet is not moving with the hand, and there's a few ways we could get around this. One way, if we want the carpet to move with the hand, which it should, it looks like it's part of it that way. We can always just do our parent carpet texture to our base hand, and now it moves. But it really depends on your workflow and how you like to operate. I oftentimes like to keep this as clean as possible with as few layers as possible. So there's something we can do called pre-comping, where we select all of our layers, right-click, and pre-compose. And I'm going to call this hand. And this is more or less moving all of our content that we have selected into another composition. It's like adding a folder and putting them in the folder. So there we go. We've got just one layer now, and that's a lot easier because if we want to move everything now, we can very easily. We just have one object to move. We can rotate it. Something that's also kind of cool about this is we can now duplicate it a lot. So I can have 3 hands, and I can add a hue, saturation. I can change the color of this one, and I'll copy this, paste it to my other hand. So I have all 3. I don't like that. You can't really see the shadow. That's fine. We could make them operate on delays. I can move this about halfway. I'll duplicate it, slide the beginning to where the end is. Could do the same thing with this one. Let's slide these 2 over here, duplicate this. Let's watch the whole thing. So you can see it's very easy to get complex compositions, more interesting compositions with just one composition, duplicating it multiple times, adding some texture to it, and delaying the composition, moving it back and forth. So, all right, one more thing. I want to show you one more effect that I use a lot. It's called roughen edges. And that's going to take our hand, we're applying it to the blue one. And right now the edge is so clear and crisp, and I want to roughen it up a little. So you can see if we really take it high, it's going to become sort of blobby. That's not what I want. Maybe around there, and then we're going to take the scale down really low. And it almost looks sort of fibrous on the edge, with the scale much lower. You can see how that's affecting it. It's maybe a little bit too much, so I'm taking the border down. And I think that's more what I like. So with, without, with, without, kind of just gives it a slightly nicer feel. Less clean, less crisp. I'm also going to, oh, I put this on the wrong thing. So I'm going to copy and paste this, delete, and I'm going to go inside of my hand, and now I'm going to apply it to the base hand. So it's applied there, and I also want to apply it to the shadow hand. And if I do that, we might want to mess around with the settings again a little bit, because since this area is a lot thinner than our base hand, we have like less surface area, so that's kind of nice. It's almost a bit chalky, without, maybe a little less. Oh, that's the wrong way. So we can see what that's going to do. More blobby again. I like it lower. And because, so we applied it inside the hand layer, it's now on all of the hands. We can see over here on the orange one, it also sort of has the fibrous edge to it. And that's because we applied it on the inside of the hand comp.